know that we are here to support you in any way that we possibly can. Again, best wishes to all of you. Please continue to be safe and stay healthy.
Good morning, chapters. This is Phyllis, the president, and I want to welcome you. And I thank you for being proactive and stepping up and coming to the first ever chapter training. Hopefully, you will attend the second session and the third session because the information is valuable and it will support you in all that you do in your chapter and being successful. I want to say to Daphne, she talked about this and she talked about this and she talked about this. And I talked with Miss Brown and we said what a great idea it was. But based on things that were going on, we couldn't take it on at the time, but we made it happen. So we put it on our to-do list and it is getting done. So I want to thank Daphne for not giving up. I want to thank Daphne and Mike for taking the helm and seeing that this became a reality. And I hope that we will be able to do this each year when chapters come in as a refresher and for new chapters so that they will know what their responsibilities are and how important it is that they adhere to the call for data, call for reports, and also the call for mentorship and everybody helping each other to do a great job. I hope today you find the training beneficial and helpful. Welcome and always be safe. Thank you.
Currently, we have 31 chapters that have registered for this workshop, along with their representatives. This is a great turnout for this first workshop, and I really want to thank you all again for your participation. Please keep in mind during the presentations, mute your phone so everyone can hear, or your laptop. Next slide, please. We'll go into the first presentation. The first presentation is Morgan State Board of Regents given by myself. And this would be a brief overview on the duties and responsibilities of the Board of Regents. Next slide, please. In this agenda, we will discuss the functions, government, and members of the Board of Regents. Next slide. The Board of Regents, these are the Board of Regents functions. I'm not going to read because I know you all can read, but basically, the Board of Regents appoints the university president, serves at the pleasure of the board. In addition, they set the standards, they review and approve university policies and budgets, and they establish a regulatory framework. Key governing documents for the Board of Regents are bylaws, policies, and procedures. Next slide, please. Morgan State University, again, is governed by a Board of Regents. It consists of 15 members that are appointed by the governor for a 6-year term. And this is established under Title 14 of the Education Article annotated in the Code of Maryland State Law. There is also a student regent that is appointed for 1-year term, and that student is selected by the president. Next slide. These are the current members of the Board of Regents. I could highlight 2 of them. Kwasi and Fume, who is the chairman, is in my graduating class of 1976. And General Larry Ellis, as many of you know, I was served in the Army for 23 years. General Ellis is a Morgan grad. He is the first 4-star general out of Morgan State University. And he is the vice chair of the Board of Regents. I know both of these individuals well. Also, you see here the other members of the Board of Regents. Next slide, please. The key takeaways from this presentation are: the board is appointed by the governor. There's a 6-year term for all members, a 1-year term for the student who is selected by the president of the university, and the board is responsible for appointing the university president. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I will be followed by Ms. Phyllis Davis, the the Morgan State University Association president.
Good morning. Next slide.
Hey, Miss Davis, we have an alibi question for Mr. Bell.
Okay.
Are all 6 regents appointed at one time, or are they in classes?
I do not know the answer to that, but I assume it probably fluctuates because, I mean, 6 years, someone could come on at different times, but I will research it. The bottom line is the term is 6 years for each individual. But I will get that answer to that question. Thank you.
Ms. Brown, do you know the answer? Is Ms. Brown still on?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. What was the question again?
The question was, are all 6 regents appointed at one time, or are they in classes? We have a response from Kalila Harris, who says they typically come in classes of 2.
No, they're appointed when their term is up. Oh.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this is the university hierarchy. Of course, Morgan, then the Division of Institutional Advancement, which is Ms. Donna Howard, and then the Office of Alumni Relations and Strategic Engagement, which is Ms. Brown, then the association, and then those who we represent and serve, the alumni and the pre-alumni, the students. Next slide. This is the organizational structure, executive committee. Next slide. The purpose of our association is for charitable and educational. Our job is to ensure that we bring alumni to the association, therefore recruiting and expanding our membership, that we work in link with the university, advancement of the university, support to the students, and that we encourage and foster the formation of new chapters, as in active chapters. Next slide, please. The committee roles, which most of you are familiar with and are similar to the roles within your own chapter, and the duties that we hold, and the activities that we support and perform. Next slide, please. This is our strategic focus for the 2 years for this administration. So part of the strategic plan deals with actually a large majority of the strategic focus that is here, and how to reach our alumni, how to stay connected, how to communicate what we're doing, how to gather ideas, and how to recruit new students for enrollment at Morgan, and how to continually provide funding, support, and assistance, not only to our students, but to the chapters and to the university. Next slide, please. So the key points and the takeaway for this is that the committee, the executive committee, serves the association and the chapters and the students and the university. You are our priority. Are there any questions? Hearing none, that is the end of my report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vanessa, and I'm with the I'm an alumni relations coordinator with the Office of Alumni Relations. Next slide. What I will share with you is why chapters are important and the deadlines that are important to stay relevant. Next slide. We must first know what the requirements are for an active chapter. This information can also be found in the chapter manual. At least 5 financial members, elected officers, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer must be financial with the association, must maintain a roster of their financial members, submit an annual report, and the president also serves on the MSUAA Executive Board of Directors. Next slide. So we always get questions about how many representatives do we get. So all chapter presidents are members of the MSUAA Board of Directors, as stated, but based on the chapter size, chapters can have additional representation. And this diagram is pretty much self-explanatory. You get 1 additional board member for at least 25. You get 2 additional board members for 26 to 50. You get 3 additional board members for 51 to 100. And 4 additional board members for 101 to 200. And chapter members must be financial at association level. Next slide. Chapters are the main point of contact for Morgan State University Alumni Association activities in their respective regions. We recognize that staying connected to the university after graduating is important. So what better way to do it than to connect to those within your local area that are proud graduates of Morgan? This connection can be the focal point of giving back in some way. You help the Office of Alumni Relations build and maintain relationships with alumni and friends of the university. You provide for social, professional, and volunteer opportunities that benefit Morgan and yourself. We can bridge the gap between the chapters and the university. You ask how? Well, there are numerous ways. Next slide. Next slide. Alumni chapters benefit Morgan, the alumni, students, the community, and members of the greater community. How about attending the Macy's Day Parade and the Morgan State University Marching Band is leading the parade off? And you're surrounded by people where you can have a smile as wide as a Cheshire cat. Next slide. Opportunities are created for alumni to network and meet each other in their communities, employment, and other areas where we can solicit the services of others to benefit the university. Next slide. Planning and hosting events is a way that we can strengthen alumni ties. I sure miss Morgan Day at Oriole Park. And this year, we didn't get to attend one of the best craft feasts sponsored by the Washington, D.C. chapter. Next slide. Friendships are renewed that developed right here when we entered the campus, however many years ago. These two met here, right here on the campus many moons ago, and Ms. Blackwell and Ms. White at one of our Alumni Day events. They are 1949 graduates who share over 70 years of friendship. We would love to have an enduring relationship for that long with someone we attended Morgan with. such a touching moment. Next slide. Wherever Morgan is, Morgan will be there. It is up to us to get the word out. We should make every effort to support all our various activities, like when Morganites came together to support the Morgan State University Choir at the Cathedral in Washington, D.C. Moreover, we should be able to support the students that attend Morgan by giving scholarships. You do not know how many students come into our office asking for assistance, and we reach out to the chapters, and at times we get no response. What is even more amazing, the students ask for a lot, but are willing to accept whatever is able to give. We must get better. Next slide. Let's support the efforts to keep alumni informed of campus development. We have a president in Dr. David Wilson who wants the alumni to know what is happening on the campus, and we have to provide avenues for the exchange of ideas between alumni and the university. And he wants to know what we are doing in our prospective areas. This is one of the reasons why it's important for us to adhere to our deadline. Next slide. Why wouldn't we want young people in our area to come to Morgan? We did. We have boots on the ground recruiting potential students to spend their next 4 to 5 years experiencing some of what we did and gaining the knowledge we did to become successful in all of our endeavors. We do this by hosting or participating in a college fair in our community or right here on Morgan campus. The alumni office, along with the admissions office, is here to assist you wherever possible. Just ask. We should take great pride in assisting the university's recruitment and admissions program and involve alumni in career development and job and internship placement of students and graduates. The contact person is Reginald Thomas, and he can be reached at reginald.thomas@morgan.edu. Next slide.
Anyone there? Hello? Still waiting. Hello?
Next slide. Yes, we have deadlines. I read somewhere deadlines help us to collaborate toward achieving a shared goal. Establishing deadlines to make it clear that on such and such a date, this is expected to be in, and on such and such a date, that is expected to be in. And to be selfish, it helps the collector of the data, me. There are 4 times a year when chapter information is most important. 3 are Alumni Association requirements and 1 IRS requirement with important dates. The chapter data form is due the 3rd week in September, the Alumni Day Award submission, which is due in the month of January, and the chapter annual report, which is due April 30th. Lastly, Form 990 or 990N is due on or before November 15th for the IRS requirement. Next slide. There are different things to think about that will aid us to be a successful chapter, and the reward is great. Remember, we are here to help you, and you are here to help the university. We will try to send a reminder when we approach the deadline, but the best way to make sure you adhere to the deadline is by putting it on your calendar with notification. We never know when the university will audit us, and we want to be able to be accountable for all chapters we say we have active. These items are crucial to our success. Why, you ask? Well, if we are unable to adhere to these deadlines, why are we here? Henry Ford once said, if everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself. Now, if you feel as if you are not able to adhere to these tasks, then maybe you should reconsider. If you need help with meeting the requirements, we are here to help you. Give us a call, send an email. First Lady Michelle Obama said in one of her conversations with Larry King, doing nothing is absolutely not an option. Although she was speaking of healthcare, it definitely works in this scenario. Throughout this 3-day workshop, we will do our best to touch what will make us stronger and better. Are you ready to stand strong in unity and do something? Are you willing to stay and work together to become a strong and viable chapter? together we can determine how to stay relevant. Do I have any questions?
Hey, Vanessa, how you doing? There's a couple of questions that came in through the chat. So the first one is from Roz McDavid, and she asks, what is a financial member?
A financial member is one who pays their alumni dues and one who is financial with their chapter, if there's a chapter due. So you would have to be financial with the Alumni Association, and that dues annually is $35 from July 1 to June 30th, and then we have a life membership program.
Thank you. So the next question is coming from Dr. Felicia Bridgewater, and she asks, is a member in a local alumni chapter limited to those who graduated from Morgan? Meaning, is there an option for Friends of Morgan's memberships? If so, how is it to facilitate in other chapters?
Okay, so yeah, we you can have people who are just Friends of Morgan become a part of a chapter, as long as they're adhering to the dues that are required from the chapter, and they also would be financial with the Alumni Association. And if I'm incorrect, Ms. Brown, could you please correct me on that?
You're correct, Vanessa.
Okay. Put in that chair in the kitchen. Keep them.
You have another question?
Yes, ma'am. We have one from Nicole Aldridge. Her question is, when students come in asking for scholarship money, how are you reaching out to the chapters for assistance?
Well, what we do is we will contact the chapter president and we wait for a response. And sometimes we don't get a response. And sometimes we get a response where they say they cannot help, they don't have the funds. And then we have a lot of chapters who do help, and we'll give them the information for the student, and they will put the money on the student account.
Ma'am, that is the last. Oh, I'd say that back. There's another question. So from Miss Dr. Bridgewater again, is there a structure for local membership dues in place? Meaning, is there an amount set for local dues to be established by the local chapter, or is it preset by the national chapter?
Each chapter set their own dues.
So another question that just came in. So is there a national scholarship fund?
A national scholarship fund through the Alumni Association? I'm not clear.
Yes, I believe we're talking about the. I believe we're talking about the Alumni Association.
Yes, Ms. Brown, could you answer that question, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the Alumni Association has an endowed scholarship fund with the foundation. And because it's endowed, you can only use the interest offered each year.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
So we have another question to clarify. An associate member, non-graduate MSU at the chapter level must be paid at the MSUAA dues.
I might be wrong, but Ms. Brown will correct me. I'm not. I think they do have to pay alumni dues also to the Alumni Association.
Yes.
Ms. Brown, or is that local they just local to that chapter?
If they want to be can you unmute me? If they want to be a member of the Alumni Association, they must be financial with both their chapter and the association.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a hand raised. Mr. Tidwell, do you have a question, sir?
I want to know, and thank you. I'd like to know, in that picture with Mike Bell at the stadium event, was that brown liquid he was hoisting up apple juice?
It was ginger ale.
All right.
I cannot tell a lie. It was a nice cold beer.
And you deserved it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hopefully I captured everybody's question in the chat. If you do have a question, okay, so I got Miss McDuffie. Please unmute yourself.
There's a question in the chat that came in.
There's one about a non-member holding office.
Yes, that's the question. That was. So can an associate member hold office at local and national levels?
Ms. Brown?
Oh, for me? Okay. No. No, they cannot hold an office. Hello?
Okay.
I think that answers it. Thank you. That was a chat question from Ms. Patricia Burt James.
Are there any other questions? And if I skipped over your question, please, you could just raise your hand. Mr. Stefan Lewis or Mr. Lewis? Oh, Stephanie, I'm sorry, Stephanie Lewis.
Okay, can you hear me? Because my screen says.
We can hear you, ma'am.
Okay, so if a student comes to the alumni office asking for a scholarship, are they able to get money from the national fund? I'm just a little concerned about why you would send them back to a chapter.
So we look to the chapters for the funds, because what happens, the ones who are members of the alumni association, there's a portion of their dues that go into this National Foundation Fund. So we first send them to the chapter because we want to make sure that fund stays at the amount that it needs to stay in order for us to draw off of it. Because like Ms. Brown said, you only can draw off the interest.
Can I say
Ms.
something?
Brown, you want to help me?
We can hear you, Ms. Brown.
She's muted.
Ms. Brown, unmute yourself.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
What usually happens why we go to the chapters is because usually the chapters are from their specific areas. Usually when they come to us, if they need some small dollars, like say if they need to buy a cap and gown, the Alumni Association does give me some discretionary fund to use to help students that are in a special need, that they need it like right away. And so sometimes I use that pool of money. It's not a whole lot of money because, you know, the majority of our money goes to the endowment fund. And so that's why we go to the chapters, asking them for assistance. And sometimes our chapters, they have allotted a certain amount of money to give out for scholarships, but they do go above and beyond when we give them a call. So that's one of the reasons why we go to the chapters, because those students are usually from their specific area.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
You're welcome.
So we have another question in the chat from Miss Harris. When folks go to pay their dues on the alumni pays, associate members is one of the options. So that's the answer to I guess the association. And then another one is if you're a full member of the chapter but an associate member at the National Alumni Association, my LS just did this because she graduated from Bowie. Miss Harris, do you have any other questions, ma'am? Over.
Hey, Alon, I think she was elaborating. I don't think she was forming any questions.
Right, those are her comments.
And I think because they're going out to everyone, this is Tanya, that we just want to make sure that those comments accurately reflect the association's understanding so that somebody could be at the chapter level, a full member of the chapter and an associate member at the national level. I think that is what she was saying, and we're just looking for confirmation.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Are there any more questions for Ms. Vanessa Gray? All right. We'll now turn it over to Ms. Davis.
Next slide, please. This is the strategic plan overview. We kicked off the strategic plan in 2018. We had a committee of 6. We added 2 additional members, and we decided what the format would be for the strategic plan, and we also looked at the Morgan plan in order to link those things that were possible with the higher strategic plan. So doing that, in order to gather the data, we did a survey. And we did a survey with the association, we did a survey with the alumni, and we did a survey with some faculty. Next slide. This is the calendar in which we brief each time we come before the association to let you know where we are. If you will notice, the things that are blue are the things that are completed, and we are on schedule to deliver the plan in September. And we have received back comments and feedback from the executive committee. It will be going out probably the first week of August to the association, to the chapters, for the president and the representatives to present to their people and to bring the feedback back to us, back to the committee. Next slide, please. There was a mission for the association. It was a long, lengthy mission. We shortened the mission to what you see here, and we added a vision. There was no vision, and we added one. Next slide, please. The committee came up with the core values. You've seen these before in the association meeting. These are the values that support our mission and our vision. Next slide, please. I'm hearing feedback.
Phyllis, give me 1 second, please. Phyllis, please unmute yourself and continue, ma'am.
Okay, based on the strategic goals, the data we collected from the survey, we went through all the data, categorized it, and that's how we came up with the 4 goals based on what the alumni and the association members were top and key things that were repeated constantly. And so therefore, communication, outreach, financial, and membership are the goals. And based on these goals, we establish objectives, and we also establish initiatives under each goal. These will be presented during the implementation process, in which the first vice president will be the person that will be the head over all of the committees, the subcommittees that will tackle each goal. Next slide, please. Okay, the key points and takeaway for you is that this is your strategic plan. It is a living document to be updated, changed, and revised as needed, and that the success of this plan depends largely upon you, your chapters, and your members. Do I have any questions?
Miss Lewis, you have your hand raised. Do you have a question, ma'am?
No, I just forgot to take it down. Sorry.
No problem. Mr. Gary C., do you have a question? Your hand is raised, sir. Okay. Ms. Harris, I will send you a response back to your question about the presentation privately. Are there any other questions? Please raise your hand or put it into the chat. Okay, nothing heard. We now go over to Ms. Daphne Franks for her presentation. Daphne.
Hey, Brenda. Hey, Brenda.
All right, so what we'll do is we're gonna jump Ms. Frank's call, and we'll jump to Mr. Beasler. Todd Beasler, are you on the line, sir?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
All right, go for it, sir.
Okay, so first things first, I'm going to say my name is Mr. Beazer. Okay, and again, I just want to, I'm not sure how it's on the line today, but I just want to do a brief introduction. So I'm the treasurer, and I'm responsible for managing the association's public funds. Quarterly, I present a budget and financial reports during the board meetings as an indication of our financial health as an organization. I work very closely with my fellow executive committee officers, the alumni relations and ad hoc committee members to achieve these duties that were entrusted in me to provide, accuracy, transparency, and the timeliness of our funds portfolio. So today I'd just like to welcome, all the chapter representatives and extend my appreciation for your continued support and trust. Basically, what we're going to talk about today are a few things that we should all be aware of just to sustain some financial viability as an organization. In particular, the association's focus on meeting the needs for growth and employing financial management practices that build stability and flexibility for all of us passionate alumni volunteers. So you can go to the next slide. Okay, so there was discussion prior to my presentation about dues. And, Morgan State Alumni Association is funded and operates by membership dues. We know the annual and the life membership, and also contributions. Just to put it bluntly, this is the lifeline of our association. At the national level, you have an option of paying a couple of ways. And I think, Vanessa touched on it. And I know there were some questions, and most people on the call know about this, but I just want to cover it very quickly. So you have your annual membership, and that's just a cost of $35. Or you have the option of a 2-year membership at the cost of $70. The membership for a new graduate is waived for the first 2 years upon their graduation. But we do have an elite status for our membership, and that's the life membership program. So becoming a life member, and Ms. Brown, if I'm off on anything, please correct me, but life membership is $500, okay? And you can, it must be initiated with at least a $50 contribution. So, and that's if you decide to pay, in installments. But the installments must be paid off within 2 years, starting from the initiation date of the first payment. We also have, family life membership, which is just husband and wife. And that is $700. And if you're going to do an installment, the same rules apply. So you need the $50 installment, and you have to pay it off at the end of 2 years. So each individual or family who becomes a life member, and we have a lot of you on the line, I know. So hopefully that you receive these benefits. You're added to our life membership scroll. You get your beautiful 11x17 plaque, and you get a gold membership card and a life member pin. However, when we look at it from the chapter level, the chapter executive committee officers are charged with setting their dues, right? So we don't control that. The real importance of all of this is really the growth initiatives, which we support at the association level in our Constitution. So if you look in our Constitution, Article 2, under the title of purpose, in Section 4, you will see that, the way we support it and what it reads is to assist the university in charitable fundraising projects and to encourage and foster the formation of new association chapters wherever there is a demonstrated interest and commitment of Morgan State University alumni to form a chapter. So as everyone should know, the association membership, and you guys know this because this is the person that's really chairing this call today, our membership committee is chaired by our second vice president, Mike Bell, right? So for the association to be in compliance, right, we have our bylaws, which under Article 12, Section 7, has kind of a checks and balance where our audit committee conducts an annual internal audit, and we submit that report. That report basically calculates the total income for each revenue account, including life membership and regular membership. Again, these are the lifelines of our association. In my role on the executive committee, I provide, the income growth updates, as I stated a minute ago, through my reports for each one of these line items. So again, it's, our way of making sure the association board is up to speed on, our performance for these two metrics, and that you take this information and share it back with your chapters. Hopefully it also drives some motivation to get some of your, chapter members to come up with some great ideas to boost the membership, right? So we are tracking it again, always at the association level. Now, this, one of the biggest benefits and or requirements to be in a nonprofit has been to be tax exempt, right? So the association is recognized by the, I'm sorry, I'm hearing some noise there. Somebody put that.
Todd B's, Todd, just please unmute yourself and continue, sir.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Continue, please.
Okay. So one of the major benefits as a nonprofit is the tax exemption, right? So we are tax exempt, and so are, all the chapters. But the IRS requires, us, the association, and you guys as chapters to file your, Form 990 every year, unless we make less than $200,000 in revenue and have less than $500,000 in assets, in which case we would have to file a Form 990EZ. Now, our past performance at the association level has shown that our gross receipts historically exceed 500,000. So that requires us to file the tax form 990. Now, all chapters with gross receipts less than 50,000 don't have to file either form, but you do have to let the IRS know that you're still in business through Form 990N, or what they call the e-postcard. Okay, every organization that qualifies for a tax exemption as an organization defined under 501c3 is a private foundation, unless it falls into one of the categories specifically excluded from the definition of that term. So the association is defined as a 501c3, and we operate under the U.S. Code 501c3 definition. So again, just want to reiterate to you guys that all the chapters are tax exempt and face no income tax liability as long as they maintain the 501c3 status. So let me take a little deeper dive on the 501c3. Again, I just mentioned that's a tax code designation. There is a 501c and a 501c3. Okay, both of those tax code designations are exempt organizations from paying corporate income tax. However, a 501c organization may not allow its donors to write off the donations. 501c3 means that a particular nonprofit organization not only has been approved by the IRS as tax exempt for charitable in a charitable organization, but one of the most important distinctions is that it allows the donations to be tax exempt, right? So that tax deductibility from a donation is tax exempt, okay? So that's one of the big things. Now, there is a compliance measure here, okay? So having the 501c3 status comes with a requirement both at the state and the federal level, okay? Annual filing requirements include your corporate annual report, your IRS Form 990, and state charitable solicitations, registration, and renewal. So please note, and this is very important, that automatic revocation occurs when an exempt organization that is required to file an annual return does not do so for 3 consecutive years. This is under the law, and the organizations automatically lose their federal tax exemption. Okay, so, in this role as treasurer, as we have other treasurers obviously on this call, you will know that there are many moving parts when managing, the day-to-day funds transactions. However, the cornerstone of monitoring financial health for any organization and individual households is, bank account management, right? So just so you guys know, the association banks with the Bank of America. We have both business and business checking and saving accounts for the purpose of financial statement reporting and cash flows that the association considers bank deposits, right? So at my level as treasurer, my fiduciary role for bank account management is as follows. And this language is in our bylaws, okay? Article 11, duties of association officers, section 4A, C, and E. One, I must be responsible for the management and the maintenance of all the association funds. In the performance of these duties, I'll maintain accurate and permanent records, which I try to make sure I report that out to everyone every quarter or at our annual business meeting. I must also be responsible for safeguarding the security of all funds and assets of the association, include the use of banking and financial institutions approved by the association. And then lastly, I serve as a signatory for checks and other disbursements of funds on behalf of the organization, of the association, I'm sorry. So the proper segregation of duties and handling processes is of paramount importance, right? Because it's the checks and balances to just make sure that, you know, the funds are being managed and being monitored accurately. So with the proper internal controls, there's a greater level of insurance that the monies are received, that they're posted in the accounting systems properly, and that they're deposited in the appropriate bank accounts completely, okay? The association's operational efficiencies for day-to-day checks and cash on hand requires authorized endorsements. It also requires log record capturing and error-free accounting practices, okay? So this means that all our secure deposits, and we you know, when we send money to the bank, we have security that escorts, you know, our folks to the bank to make these deposits, to make sure that they are securely received, okay? And then we receive the bank account statements. These statements are reviewed by myself on a monthly basis and quarterly by our executive director. So as you can see in my example, we have the checks and balances to make sure our day-to-day operations for all memberships, all contributions, and all monies that are being managed as part of our cash flows and deposited, that we have the securities and the checks and balance to make sure that this is done correctly. So, you know, if we look at it, securing monies is the priority for all of the organizations. So one of the ways that, you know, we mitigate fraud and to protect the association's income and contributions, again, we have some language in the bylaws that provides this protection. So Alana, if you can go to the next slide. Okay, bonding. I'm going to give you a little background on bonding. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but fidelity bonds, which are also known as commercial crime policies, right? They provide coverage for a direct loss due to your business money, securities, and/or business personal property as a result of an employee or member being dishonest or fraudulent, okay? So the association recently awarded State Farm Insurance for this level of coverage. And this is going to provide two types of bonds, but we have decided to go with the blanket bond, right? Because you have a blanket bond and you have scheduled bonds, but we're going with the blanket bond. And that bond is going to cover all executive committee board members in compliance with the bylaws, and 2 alumni relations staff members that provide, I got something popping up on my screen here. Alon, I don't know what this is asking me to leave. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, you're good, Todd. Keep going.
Okay, yeah, because this thing is, like, I can't even see my slide. Let me minimize this. Okay. There we go. Okay. So, again, we have this bond, the blanket bond, that, again, all executive committee board members are protected and are covered. Let me say it that way, are covered. And then we also have the 2 alumni relations staff members that provide support for financial transactions covered under this bond. The fidelity bond is providing coverage for up to $200,000 which is our average annual budget run rate. So again, what that really means in simple terms, if monies are missing because of a fraudulent or dishonest activity, State Farm will reimburse us for up to $200,000 to make the association whole. However, we would also be initiating an investigation to cover the claim, or State Farm would be initiating the investigation as we file the claim to them. Now, as I stated previously, you know, to do the job that I do, it takes a team, and the team has to have integrity, has to have trust, and there has to be a commitment for growth to sustain the Alumni Association. And this is a very important practice, but chapter budget development, okay? The process of building a budget is fundamentally a planning process, right? At the present time, you know, the association is developing some fiscal policies and procedures for our annual budget process. Therefore, at this point, we currently are following guidance provided by our bylaws, Article 12, Section 6, and use the detailed expense data files for major expense categories, right? We obtain assumptions, revenue, and expense information from the executive director, and we also consider requesting program budget data from our president and ad hoc committee chairpersons, if deemed necessary. So I wanted to share that, you know, quickly with you guys, because I hope that you are involving a team, you are forming a team at the chapter level to achieve your budget. You know, developing your budget, it's actually going to help you monitor where you guys are going, what your you know, your run rate is, what your recurring expenses are, and how to plan for the next fiscal year. It's very important that you have this in place, so you're not really like flying by the seat of your pants, just trying to get through the fiscal year. So my last thing here is, you know, as individuals, it's important to have an annual checkup, right? However, it's also imperative for the association to monitor activities at the chapter level, right? So we need to know the health of our chapters. And that's where we get into my last bullet item, annual chapter report requirements, okay? The chapters are required to furnish reports requested by the board of directors and the executive director of the association, okay? These reports include an annual report of your chapter activities, membership, finance reports that are and tax matters, and then any other reports that may be required from time to time. Now, if you reference your your chapter manual, you'll see this language there. And we will, meaning the association, will provide notice to all chapters when reports are requested and due. So in closing, I just wanted to recap on a few focus tips, okay? And you can go to the next slide because we're going to go into questions after that if we haven't. Dues. Monitor chapter membership rosters for active financial members. Tax obligations. File tax form 990 annually, or even the e-postcard if you're at that level that I explained earlier. 501c3, all chapters are tax exempt. Bank account management, review your monthly analysis statement if your bank provides this type of detail. Again, you need to monitor your expenditures for expenses. Bonding, I recommend that all chapters carry Fidelity Insurance members in positions with fiduciary responsibility. Very important that you protect your funds. Chapter budget, start early and design a process. Okay, annual chapter reports, reminder to submit annual chapter reports by April 30th. And I think Vanessa touched on that earlier. And then my overall recommendation is that each chapter establish a fiscal procedures committee or team to ensure that the financial data is accurate and reliable for your decision-making of your internal controls. Okay, that concludes my presentation, and I'll turn it over for any questions.
Hey, Todd, great brief. We have questions starting back at 1254 with KM Wright. How can a chapter confirm their tax ID TIN number?
The EIN number, I believe, and Ms. Brown, is that something that you can furnish to the chapters? I believe we can furnish that to you.
Yes, we can.
Yes. So that's, you send your request to Ms. Brown and she'll get that number to you.
Excellent. Next question from Ebony J out of Chicago. Mr. Beezer, can you comment on various state tax requirements?
Well, it's a little, that's a good question, but that's a very open question because each jurisdiction has their own requirements. And so I probably need it to be a little more specific, and then we could at least, point to the source to get the language for tax compliance. But the best place to start is going to be with the IRS. They basically are the agency that provides guidance to the country. So, but specifically, if you want to send me a more direct question, then maybe I can get you a more pointed answer for that.
Ebony, is that sufficient? All right. Next is next question from Dr. Bridgewater. 1257. Chapter management toolkits, officer SOPs. Will they be provided as a part of this training?
Standard operating procedures? Is that what he's asking?
Yes. Yeah, SOPs or toolkits.
That's a good idea. I know we have our strategic plan, and Phyllis, I know you're on the line. That might be something that we want to discuss, if we can maybe put a template together for standard operating procedures. But again, you do have to understand that at the chapter level, you have a lot of flexibility to kind of craft what those procedures would be that really works well for your chapter. So, we might be able to give you some guidance and maybe some best practices or some things that we're doing at the association level. And if you want to marry that to some of your ideas that would be effective at the chapter level, then let's talk about that, and I'd be open to discussion.
All right.
Okay, this is Phyllis. The chapters receive a handbook when they are chartered from Ms. Brown, and most chapters, I know as in ROTC, we have our own procedures, whether it's for Hall of Fame or how we're going to support the cadets with funding and so forth. So that's not really something that we would dictate to the chapter in SOP. They will have their own SOP because they will have unique and specific needs based on their chapter. As for the toolkit, that may be something we could look at and give an example of a budget or what have you to add to chapter handbooks that Ms. Brown's office already provides, which covers a lot of you have to do your tax card and so forth.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Next question from Ms. Leonka Kim Kahi. How do you know if your chapter is a 501c3 that allows the contributions to be tax deductible?
Well, the association is a 501c3. if you look at the requirements for any other organization classification, you'll see that, you don't really fit in that code. You are 501c3 as an extension of the association, okay? And unless you made some changes like you're paying employees, they're getting a salary, that kind of puts you in a different bracket, you are a 501c3. So to check that, to your question, you could just go to the IRS website and they will give you an explanation of the requirements to be a 501c3.
Thank you, Todd. I think that answers the next question for you, Stephanie. Are chapters 501c3 as chapters of the National Alumni Association? I think you just covered that, Todd.
Yeah.
Also, can Ms. Brown speak to the 501(c) and tax? Because this is something she has brought up before, and persons not doing their tax form. So Ms. Brown, could you speak to that?
Yeah, yes. When new chapters are formed, I have to go to the IRS to get an EIN number for all of the chapters. And when I do secure the EIN number for all chapters, I send to each president a letter notifying them of the EIN number and that they come under the umbrella of the Morgan State University Alumni Association. In addition to that, each year we get a list of all of the chapters from the IRS that comes under the umbrella of the Morgan State University Alumni Association. And sometimes chapters are not on that list. The reason why they're not on that list is because they have not satisfied their requirements as far as filling out the necessary tax forms that Todd just spoke about. What you have to do is go back and then reapply to get your EIN number. You keep your EIN number, it doesn't go away, but you are not under the umbrella of the association. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you, Miss Brown. That really puts some clarity to it. I can't reiterate. I mean, it's just some simple compliance that is required by everyone. And the filing is just like your income tax. I mean, you have to file by the deadline date. And as a nonprofit, you have a 3-year window or your tax exempt will be revoked. So, make sure you're getting your 990s filed. But I think to Ms. Brown's point, they need to be filled out completely and submitted. We'll go into probably a little more detail on the, I guess, one of the other retreat sessions. But I think that kind of addresses the question, hopefully.
Thank you, Todd. There's a question from Patricia Burt James. You had mentioned earlier, Todd, that serving as a signatory for checks and other disbursements of funds on behalf of the association. Her question is that a 2-signature signatory?
Yes. Yes. I mean, you should at a minimum have 2 signatures required for your bank transactions, just as a kind of as like a backup, for lack of the word I'm looking for, as a backup to these funds being dispersed. I mean, if you put all that, all that authority on one individual, then, that to me, that's just, there's no checks and balance there. That person has all the authority to withdraw funds. So there's no securities there. So it should be a 2-signatory requirement for bank transactions.
Excellent. A question from Ross McDavid. When is the e-postcard due? Vanessa advised it's due by November the 15th.
Yep.
All right. Question from Donald McCall. Stand by, my screen just adjusted. The question is, will there be a chapter budget development tool or example distributed to the local chapters? I think we addressed that with the toolkit and the SOP discussion, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we did.
All right. All right. That's all I'm tracking, unless there are any other alibi questions that I've missed. Yes, I noticed on the IRS website that many chapters fall under MSUAA Incorporated without reference to chapter name. Is the best way to add the chapter name to add the chapter name to the DBA line? Question from Tanya McDuffie.
Doing business as, and put the chapter name. Let me look at that requirement. If you can save Ms. McDuffie's information and let me get back to her directly to give her guidance on that.
Yep, will do. And for everyone's awareness, we're going to log all the questions and try to mature a FAQ sheet to address everything that was discussed.
Okay.
That's all the questions I have, Todd.
Excellent. Thank you. I defer back to Mike Bell.
I'm going to try to bring Daphne back up on her and her presentation.
Cody Cox had his hand raised.
Daphne, are you there, ma'am? Correction, Mr. Cody Cox, you have your hand raised. Do you have a question, sir?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I could have just put it in the chat, but I wanted to refer back to Todd's issue about the tax exempt status. So if we all fall under the national as tax exempt, how do we get documentation to show that? There's a couple times in our chapter, and our treasurer's on, and he can clean this up if I'm saying it incorrectly, but we needed to show that we were tax exempt on a purchase, and we tried to get that status, but through the state, apparently we were not eligible. So I was just confused on how we show documentation of tax exempt status.
Well, there's a disclosure form, and we could provide that disclosure form to you guys for that sale or for that tax exemption. So I guess you couldn't achieve it at the state level, but they're asking you to submit proof that you're exempt. Is that correct? Okay, so we can provide.
Correct.
Yeah, we can provide the disclosure form to you to prove that you are exempt.
And also, it's included on that form that we get from the federal government every year. Also.
Yeah. So we can set you straight.
All right, Ms. Cash, you have your hand raised, ma'am. Okay, nothing heard. Ms. Ebony J, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Chapter, and we have a letter. Is it possible, maybe moving forward, that there's something that the chapters can get updated, maybe annually or every 2 years? Because our letter is pretty old. I mean, we keep up to date with our filings, but sometimes we need something that's a little bit more current from either the national organization or sometimes from the IRS. But different entities have different requirements when they want to see your tax status, and so sometimes that's something that's more current would be helpful.
I mean, we can provide it. So if you just reach out to me, and I'll just give you my email address right now, and everyone, you can jot it down. It's Todd, TODD, Beazer, BEAZER @gmail. I'll make sure that, if you have a need if you need that form, we can get it to you. Does that satisfy the question?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, with no more questions in the chat, Mike Bell, over to you, sir.
Yes, we're going to try to go with Daphne Frank again. Daphne, are you communicating? Okay, I'm not hearing anything from Daphne, and I don't want to waste people's time. What we will do is defer Daphne's presentation to next week, and hopefully we have these communications errors corrected.
Can you hear me?
Daphne, are you available to do your presentation?
I can hear you guys.
We can hear you too, Daphne.
Okay, I think I just had to reload my my mic. I had to reload.
Okay, you're up.
Okay, I want to present to you. This is a very simplified version of what's expected with our association, constitution and bylaws and our rules and our amendment process. I'm Daphne Elder, I'm Daphne Frank, and I'm going to follow through with you guys. Next page. This is just a brief introduction. Again, this is very simple. I'm just going to discuss with you very briefly on some basic standing rules. Since we don't have an SOP, which is something that the president and I have talked about, along with some other policies that need to be in place. I know you all talked about it with the financial piece, but we're going to implement an association SOPs, therefore, so that the chapters can establish theirs and how to follow on through what we're doing. And I'm going to discuss the bylaws amendment process when it comes to chapters and the association. And again, I am a member of the District of Columbia Association of Parliamentarians. And everything we do and everything we act on is based on the Robert's Rules of Order, the 11th edition, newly revised. Next slide. Again, I'm just going to talk about just some of the, it's only basic, some general standing rules. Lesson 2, our process to submit our amendments to the association, and something that we are moving forward to doing as far as chapter bylaws review process. Next slide. There's always been some miscommunication on what the role of the parliamentarian is and what they do with the association. The parliamentarian is appointed by the president. He doesn't act as an officer, but he's a consultant. And to that president's discretion, that consultant can be used as whenever is needed for them. They're not a member of the executive board. The bylaws committee is assigned by the president to act as consultants to support the association as well as the chapters. And when it comes to submission amendments, it will be voted on by the association. We've been doing it, I think the last one was 2016. Again, I haven't noted every 2 years, but in the event some things come up within our bylaws that so what they call is you have to relax the bylaws because somehow it just doesn't work. And, you know, we put these things in place. So sometimes an amendment is done immediately, you know, just as we deal with conflicts with the organization. And again, chapter bylaws will be submitted to the association for record and are required to be approved by the bylaws committee in the association. And that is so that we can ensure alignment and consistency and and compliances with the association that are to be adhered to. Next slide. When it comes to the process of amending the association bylaws, a request will go out to the chapter through our first bites and down through the bylaws committee to the chapters, and they're required to submit their information back on a template. We don't have, the dates are not in place. The dates will be put out as we go forward to submit these requests. The chapter should vote on the association bylaws that they are subordinate to for approval. So if someone in your chapter has an amendment that they would like to propose, they have to go through their chapter to have it approved before it's sent up to the association. If you are if you're not in a chapter, then your submission will go directly to the bylaws committee. and to diverse vice. Amendment requests are only accepted using we're going to have I don't know if we had one before, but an amendment submission template. And they will be vetted, coordinated, and consolidated by the bylaws committee. And just so you know, there won't be any changes to anybody's submissions unless it's approved by the author or the chapter. It's only our responsibility to ensure that it has the right content, grammar, and it doesn't violate any parts of what we do, and it's in alignment, and it meets all ethical requirements, as long as there's no violations. And so when it comes to voting on those bylaws, they will be presented to the association at least 60 days prior to the homecoming business meeting, which is where the voting would take place. Next slide. Next slide. And lastly, we're implementing a process for, I know we said that of course, your bylaws are to be submitted and sent up to the association. When it comes to you submitting your bylaws, your own chapter bylaws, to ensure that they meet the compliances with the association, a designated month will be assigned for chapters for review and approval. So you'll have to work your timeline to review your bylaws and make your amendments based on the designated month that we give you. Again, the bylaws committee consists of members with parliamentary experience, and the time for review of your bylaws will be within 60 to 30 days, 30 to 60 days. And your bylaws become effective once approved by the association. Next slide. If there are any questions, I can move on to the next presentation.
Daphne, currently there's no questions within the chat. Are there any questions from the floor? Please raise your hand. Okay, there's one question that just came in. Will the chapters receive the date for the
When chapters receive the date for submission of their bylaws proposals, we're going to come up with, I believe, twice a year that we'll be designating chapters to submit their bylaws for approval. I'm discussing that with the president and the bylaws committee. But work on them now. If you're not working on them, work on them now. So when we do implement those 2 dates, you will be ready to submit your bylaws. No more questions. Next slide. Where is there an outline for bylaws? We will, at the next presentation, I will have, when you say an outline for bylaws, like how to submit them and what the format should look like, that is something that I will add with the next session. If you need one, just send me an email to Daphne E, and I can send you a template, and I can send a template for submission and a template to how to address your proposals and your requests, your proposals, and how it can be drafted out in an Excel spreadsheet. You can send me an email to Daphne, DAPHNEYE, @gmail.com. Okay. I will go on to the nominations of the association. Now what I have is, I have an SOP for nominations, but hopefully these 2 or 3 slides can kind of sum things up because it can be very lengthy. The next slide, please. Again, I pretty much mentioned my introduction and my position. And this here is just for benefit of the association to provide what it takes to consider a candidate for office. Next slide. The purpose and the bylaws association, the association bylaws, procedures and processes for nominations. Next slide. And so I don't have to go into too much of the details. I'm reading this to you. You know, the purpose, of course, is to provide choices, choice candidates for election. Of course, it's a democratic process. The nomination committee will consist of 5 or more members elected by the association. A tellers committee shall be appointed by the president, and to ensure the chapters shall be aligned to ensure elected officers are on board 1 July, and dues of candidates must be paid prior to the election date. And your chapter's fiscal years must fall in line with the association. If there is no elections held, if there's any emergencies, current officers must stay in place until new officers are elected and installed as agreed upon by the body. There are instances where you cannot, or something happens where your elections aren't held, and they don't have to be held in the same year as the association, as long as you start your fiscal year along with the association's 1 July. Next slide. And just to kind of sum it up, the president in March will open the floor for nomination. Those are not present must provide a letter of acceptance to include credentials at the close of business. The secretary will verify the nominees, the financial status, and any rules and guidelines that's set by the association with those credentials. Next slide. Voting would be done by mail. The secretary will provide a list of financial members to the tellers committee, who will verify those voting members. And in the event that because of the alumni day, typically is the day that is announced who the elected officers are, a special meeting will be conducted prior to homecoming to count those ballots. You have to have an official meeting to take place in order to officiate and validate those positions. There may be a position or a time that you have to recount and motions are made. So you have to have a meeting, an official meeting for that to take place. This is just summed up because the SOP is very lengthy, and we have a SOP that's established for that. What are the rules and credentials, and what are the responsibilities for each process for the nominating committee before someone comes into office. Does someone have any questions? I see Todd has something. Again, a copy of the SOP will be uploaded with our documents, and again, added in with the SOP that the association is putting together. Prior to Alumni Day, not homecoming, excuse me. A special meeting would be called prior to the alumni meeting. That's correction here. Any questions? If you have any questions regarding this process, you can contact me at Daphne, DAPHNEYE @gmail, and my phone number is 202-497-9465. At the second session of this process, we will go into a little bit more detail of conducting a meeting and the responsibilities of a chapter when it comes to the bylaws. That's all I have.
Over to you, Mike Bell.
All right, everyone. We're coming into the home stretch here. I'm gonna give a quick wrap up. Before I do, I want to take a point of personal privilege. I see a couple of my Army alumni on here. I want to thank you for participating, especially Brother T.C. Newman, who was an inspiration to me to go to flight school. And he just celebrated 50 years in Omega. So it was great seeing you on the call there, Brother Newman. Okay, moving forward. I want to thank everyone for your participation. I want to thank all the presenters. Our next two sessions will focus on chapter level issues and information. And here's the brief schedule for our next session, which will take place same time next Saturday. And I hope each of you will participate. After this session, please take a moment to fill out the survey for today's session. Alon, can you show that survey, please?
Mike? Michael?
Yes.
This is Tony Horton, Philadelphia. Is there a way we can get a, like a copy of the agenda? And I don't have anything like that for what we have presented here today and perhaps the upcoming meetings.
That information was provided. Alon, would you like to address that?
Yes. So what we're about to do, hopefully everybody can hear me. So there was an email that was sent out yesterday with a quick reference sheet, and it had a couple of URLs. I'm about to put those website addresses in the chat for everybody. So what you should be seeing on your screen right now is the drive where everything is located. Once you hit that that website link, which you'll come to this top layer, you'll have 3 folders on top with the different sessions. So if you go into session 1, what you'll see is the presentation both in an editable PowerPoint slide, and also if you have to, and you have low computer capacity, you'll have the PDF version. So those are the slides that were presented today. In addition to that, there are 2 additional folders, one called additional resources. So all of the extra materials that was provided by Ms. Vanessa Gray on a chapter manual, membership spreadsheets, different charts, all of those are in that actual folder, along with some materials dealing with standard operating procedures for the nominations. So that folder has that material there. In addition, if you only want to download each of the individual presentations, there is a folder for that. So you can go to each individual one where it's a standalone presentation to download to your for your consumption for yourselves and your chapters. But again, everybody has this link. Everybody has, I take that back. Everybody does not have this link. If you did not have this link, I will provide you my email so I can provide you with the information to the resources to get this link. Also, in addition, there is the document with your quick reference sheet. Again, what we're going to also put in the chat is a survey. So based off of today's session, and we highly recommend, please provide us feedback as a committee on these different surveys. That link will be provided, and you could go in there and you can knock out this survey and provide us feedback on how well we did or how terrible we did. Feedback is be honest, be honest, be honest. And again, it's anonymous, so you don't have to worry about actually saying who you are as you go along with this particular event. And the last thing is what we have done is we have created a blog for the members of that's attending this workshop. So if you have any additional feedback questions, you could go there and actually put it into this blog. And what we'll do is we'll centrally manage this blog and push the questions out to the individual presenters as we go along. So those are the 3 different URLs that we have right now that is active for the attendees for this event. In addition to that, based off of the workshop, once we are completed, the recording for this workshop will be placed in each one of those folders that you'll have the link to, so you can download the actual presentation, the full video, and you can consume it as fast or as slow as you want. So that will be done about an hour and a half after every session. So that is all I have, Mike. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Mr. Bell.
Okay. Go ahead, D. Foster.
And we have a few alibi questions. The first from Pat at 1:40. Pat's question is, life membership numbers. How do I find out this number?
Contact the alumni office.
You can contact Barbara Farmer. She manages the Life Membership Program, and her number, and she's at the alumni office, and it's 443-885-3015. Or you can also send her an email to barbara.farmer@morgan.edu.
Excellent. And question from Ms. Davis to Ms. Brown, I believe. Can someone please address the question of logos for chapters?
Ms. Brown, you want me to take that?
Yeah, either you or Ms. Brown.
I'm here.
Okay.
Ms. Brown, we can hear you.
Okay. We have one standard logo that was created by the university attorney. All of our chapters has to conform to the same exact logo. The only addition, and that is the Alumni Association's logo. And what we do is put the chapter name under the Morgan State University Alumni Association's logo, and they all have to conform to this one logo. You can't have your own logo, because if our university attorney ever see it, we can be in trouble. So if you need the logo, just contact us and we will provide you the logo to you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
You're welcome.
Last question for Mr. Bell. The request is that you proceed the next meeting by singing the alma mater.
I can do that.
Now let it be done.
Okay. Thank you very much. Again, let me thank everyone that participated today. I want to thank my committee for an outstanding job. I expect those surveys to reflect such. Also, please fill out the survey. And as Alon pointed out, there's room for additional questions if you have any after we complete this session. We hope to see you all next week. And I want to close by saying, stay healthy, stay safe, and in the meantime, don't get none on you. That's all I got.
Great job.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Good effort. And please, thanks for not singing.
Stand by for next week.
All right, bro.
All right, later.